So we're coming up on the last week of August. And so we're about to end the sign of Leo and enter the sign of Virgo. And so I equate this time with our childhoods, because in the beginning of summer, we're all let out of school. We get to all go home and be with our friends and get to play out in the sun. We go on vacations with our family. Sometimes we travel, see other relatives, or we go to places we've never been before. And it's a lot of fun, and it's all discovering and getting to do things that we want to do. And then we come to the end of Leo, and then Virgo takes over. Well, Virgo is a very different energy, because Virgo is the essence of, well, it's time to go back to school and back to our jobs and the work and the skills at hand that are upon us. And so now we have to put all our beach balls and our beach, towels and everything put away. And we have to get out our books, and we have to get out our planners, because Virgo wants us to plan and organize and focus on what's ahead of us. And since Virgo is a service sign, it's not about what we want, it's about what we do, and that's our service for others and not ourselves. And so this is where we're headed into on the 23rd as Virgo takes over. Now, it's a sign of getting organized. And so we look at what we're going into, because Virgo is a sign of tremendous organizing and task doing and planning. And so we go into the busiest season of the year, which is the autumn, going into the holidays. And there's a lot of holidays and a lot of planning. And so this is something that we're going to be focused on, because it does become overwhelming at times. But at the same time, we have a huge election coming up at the same time. And that's complicated, because Mercury is going to sit right next to the sun as it moves into Virgo. And now we have a lot of discourse, a lot of looking at what's wrong with everything, as Virgo tends to look at things that are problems and problem solving. And so we're going to look at all the problems. We're going to hear about all the problems. That's a distraction. And I'd rather you be focused on your own individual lives and the things that you're doing in your life than being focused on all the rhetoric or whatever's going on the outside that's going to be bombarded upon you. And when we get into arguments with people, and people give their point of view, which is contrary to ours, we look at that as a sense of criticism and judgment on ourselves. So it's better just to keep a distance and put your borders and boundaries around yourself, because Virgo does represent strong borders and boundaries and discernment. So take in as much as you want and eliminate the rest. That very Virgo energy is the discernment, because it tends to overdo and overwhelm. So the other thing that's going to go on is that we have a lunar eclipse. We have a lunar eclipse where the sun and the moon will be together in Pisces. Now, Pisces, the opposite of Virgo, is a service sign. And so if Virgo represents our individual service, Pisces represents the reason and the larger picture of why we're doing it. And so this is my analogy to that, because I look at both these things in the way that I can make it a concept, because that's what Pisces is a concept. So a Virgo, I'm going to put 1,000 pieces of a puzzle on a table, and it's going to be very overwhelming. And then at the same time, I'm going to set next to it the box of the picture of the puzzle it's supposed to turn out to look like. Creates a completely different energy, because you need to know what the concept is, the big picture of what you're doing in the task. And so if you're doing a forest scene, or if you're doing a cityscape, they're very different concepts. And so if you do have, say, a forest scene or whatever it looks like in nature, you're going to know where the green goes. You're going to know where the blue goes. You're going to know where these things go by virtue of the visual, the picture. So this is a time when we get this eclipse to sit back, get out of your head, and look at the vision of yourself right now, your politics, where you are in it, what your focus will be on that, and then your family and your organization of your personal life, because everything else can be quite overwhelming. And one of the things that's happening also toward the end of this month is that the Sun and Mercury conjunction is going to make a hard square to Uranus, which means that the discourse can be rather in conflict. But it also gives you a sense to stand back and look and say, there's another way of looking at this. You don't have to get in an argument about it. You have to look at yourself going, am I being too narrow in my focus? Is there another way I can look at this? Whether it is politics or whether it is what you're doing in the holidays. What is your concept this season? Do you want to have everyone at your house? Are you going to change the rules? Because that gives you an opening, an opportunity with that aspect of Uranus to say, I might want to try a different way of doing that this year. So take advantage of that. get through the rest of this month before we head into September. And essentially, it really is to turn a lot of noise out to create those borders and boundaries so you can, because there is a lot to do. We're trying to get reorganized right now. Okay, so thanks for listening. If you want to get a reading from me, you know to go to my website, get my information, and hang in there. I know it seems like a lot every time I do these, but we all get through it eventually. All right, take care.